Sarah Martinez stood at the entrance of the Naval Academy, her worn shoes clicking against the marble floor. The year was 1985, and women in the military were still fighting for respect. She clutched her acceptance letter, hands trembling slightly as male cadets walked past, some snickering and whispering among themselves. "Look at that," one cadet muttered to his friend. Another girl trying to play sailor. Sarah pretended not to hear, but each word cut deep. She had worked twice as hard as any male candidate to get here. Her father, a retired Navy cook, had warned her about this. "Mija, they won't make it easy for you," he had said. "But if anyone can do it, you can." The first day of classes was brutal. Commander Williams, a stern man with gray hair and cold eyes, looked directly at Sarah when he spoke. "Some of you don't belong here," he announced to the class of 50 cadets. "The Navy isn't a place for the weak or those looking for special treatment." Sarah knew he was talking about her and the 3 other women in the class. She sat straighter in her chair, determined not to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. During physical training, the instructors pushed everyone to their limits. Sarah had been running since she was 12, preparing for this moment, while other cadets struggled with the morning 5-mile runs. She kept pace with the fastest males. This only seemed to annoy the instructors more. "Martinez," Sergeant Lopez shouted during one particularly difficult obstacle course. "You think you're proving something by showing off?" Sarah wiped sweat from her forehead and looked him straight in the eye. "No, Sergeant. I'm just doing my job." Her roommate, Jennifer, wasn't handling the pressure as well. Every night, Jennifer cried into her pillow, talking about quitting and going home to her comfortable life in California. Sarah would listen, offering encouragement, but privately she worried. If Jennifer left, it would make things harder for all the women. The academic classes were Sarah's strength. While others struggled with navigation and maritime law, she absorbed every detail. Her professors noticed, though they rarely acknowledged it publicly. During one navigation exam, she scored the highest in the class, beating the previous record by 15 points. Word spread quickly through the academy. Some cadets were impressed, but others became more hostile. They started playing pranks on her, hiding her textbooks and putting salt in her coffee. Sarah never complained or reported the incidents. She knew that would only make her appear weak. One evening, as Sarah studied alone in the library, she overheard 2 senior cadets talking about her. "She's just trying to prove women can do everything men can do," one said. "It's pathetic, really. She'll probably quit before the end of the first semester." "I heard she's from some poor family in Texas," the other replied. "Probably sees the military as her only way out." They weren't entirely wrong. Sarah's family had struggled financially her entire life. Her mother cleaned houses while her father worked odd jobs after his Navy service ended due to an injury. Sarah had earned scholarships and worked 3 part-time jobs to pay for college before the academy accepted her. But their dismissive tone made her angry. They acted as if ambition and hard work were somehow shameful. Sarah closed her book and walked past their table, making sure they saw her. She wanted them to know she had heard every word. The real test came during the first major seamanship exercise. All cadets had to work together to operate a training vessel for 3 days. Sarah was assigned to the navigation team, working under Lieutenant Commander Davis, a respected officer known for his high standards. On the first day at sea, rough weather hit unexpectedly. Waves crashed over the deck as cadets scrambled to secure equipment. Sarah noticed that the ship's compass readings seemed inconsistent with their planned course. While others focused on battling the storm, she quietly checked and rechecked the navigation instruments. "Sir," she approached Lieutenant Commander Davis during a brief calm moment. "I think there might be an issue with our heading." Davis looked annoyed at being interrupted by a first-year cadet. "Martinez, we've been sailing these waters for 20 years. I think we know where we're going." Sarah hesitated, knowing that challenging a superior officer could end her career before it started. But she also knew they were heading toward dangerous shallow waters. "Sir, with respect, the compass readings show we're off course by 12 degrees. At our current heading, we'll reach the reef area in approximately 2 hours." Davis stared at her for a long moment. Around them, other cadets watched the exchange with interest. Some hoped to see Sarah humiliated, while others secretly admired her courage. "Show me," Davis said finally. Sarah led him to the navigation station and explained her calculations. She showed him how the storm had affected their instruments and demonstrated the correct course using backup navigation methods she had learned from her father years ago. Davis studied her work carefully, checking her math twice. His expression gradually changed from annoyance to surprise, then to something approaching respect. "Martinez," he said quietly, "you may have just saved this ship." He immediately ordered a course correction. Within an hour, they received a radio call confirming that another vessel had run aground on the exact reef Sarah had identified. The crew was rescued, but the incident made headlines in naval publications. News of Sarah's quick thinking spread throughout the academy. Some instructors began treating her with newfound respect, though others became even more determined to find her weaknesses. The female cadets looked up to her, while many male cadets remained skeptical, convinced her success was just luck. Sarah knew this was only the beginning. She had proven she could handle the academic and technical aspects of naval training, but bigger challenges awaited. The academy was just the first step in her journey toward something much greater than anyone could imagine. 3 years passed at the Naval Academy, and Sarah Martinez had transformed from a nervous young woman into a confident officer candidate. She graduated third in her class, earning her commission as an ensign. But the real challenges began when she received her first assignment aboard the USS Harrison, a destroyer stationed in the Pacific. Captain Bradley Thompson ran the Harrison with an iron fist. He had served for 30 years and made no secret of his belief that women didn't belong on combat vessels. When Sarah reported for duty, he looked her up and down with obvious disapproval. "Ensign Martinez," he said, not bothering to stand or shake her hand. "I've read your academy record. Impressive on paper. Let's see how you handle real Navy life." The crew of 200 sailors included only 12 women, mostly in support roles. Sarah was assigned to the operations department, where she would stand watch on the bridge and help coordinate the ship's movements and communications. Her first few weeks were rough. Senior officers gave her the most tedious assignments, hoping she would request a transfer. They made her inventory supply closets, update outdated manuals, and handle paperwork that junior enlisted personnel usually managed. Sarah completed every task perfectly, no matter how menial. She arrived early for every watch and stayed late to double-check her work. Slowly, some of the junior officers began to respect her dedication, though they were careful not to show it publicly. The real turning point came during a joint exercise with the Marine Corps. Sarah was serving as the night watch officer when an urgent message arrived from Fleet Headquarters. A Marine unit conducting training on a nearby island had encountered severe weather and needed immediate evacuation. The regular communications officer was ashore on leave, and Sarah was the only person qualified to coordinate the complex rescue operation. She would need to manage communications between multiple ships, aircraft, and ground units while tracking weather patterns and calculating safe approach routes. Captain Thompson was awakened and briefed on the situation. He looked at Sarah with skepticism when told she would be coordinating the rescue. "Ensign, this isn't a training exercise. Real lives are at stake. Are you certain you can handle this?" Sarah felt the weight of every eye on the bridge. The other officers waited to see if she would back down or admit the task was beyond her capabilities. "Yes, sir," she said firmly. "I can handle it." For the next 8 hours, Sarah orchestrated one of the most complex rescue operations the fleet had seen that year. She coordinated helicopter flights in dangerous winds, guided supply ships through treacherous waters, and maintained constant communication with Marine units trapped on the island. When weather conditions worsened, Sarah made the difficult decision to delay one helicopter flight until visibility improved. The pilot argued with her, insisting he could make the trip safely. Sarah held firm, knowing that rushing could result in casualties. "Negative on that flight plan," she radioed back. "Weather conditions are below minimums. You will wait for my clearance." 20 minutes later, weather monitoring stations confirmed that a sudden wind shear had developed along the exact flight path the pilot wanted to take. If Sarah had approved the flight, the helicopter would likely have crashed. By dawn, all Marines had been safely evacuated. The operation was completed without a single injury, despite weather conditions that had grounded most other aircraft in the region. Fleet Headquarters sent a commendation message, praising the Harrison's crew for their exceptional coordination and professional execution. Captain Thompson called Sarah to his cabin that afternoon. She expected criticism for some minor mistake she might have made during the long night. Instead, he offered her coffee and gestured for her to sit down. "Ensign Martinez," he began slowly, "I owe you an apology. I've been waiting for you to fail, hoping to prove that women don't belong on my ship. Last night, you proved me wrong." Sarah remained silent, unsure how to respond. Thompson continued, I've been in the Navy for 3 decades, and I've rarely seen such skilled coordination under pressure. You saved lives last night, and you did it with the kind of calm professionalism that takes most officers years to develop. Word of Sarah's performance spread throughout the fleet. Other ships requested her for temporary assignments during complex operations. She became known as an officer who could handle any situation with intelligence and composure. But success brought new challenges. Some officers resented her growing reputation, claiming she received special treatment because of her gender. Others argued that she was promoted too quickly, suggesting her achievements were exaggerated. During one particularly difficult deployment, Sarah faced her biggest test yet. The Harrison was patrolling international waters when they encountered a foreign submarine operating suspiciously close to American territory. The situation required careful diplomacy combined with firm resolve. Sarah was serving as officer of the deck when the submarine was first detected. She immediately notified the captain and began implementing standard tracking procedures. For 12 hours, the Harrison shadowed the submarine while Sarah coordinated with intelligence analysts and fleet commanders. The foreign submarine captain seemed to be testing American responses, making unexpected course changes, and operating in ways that were technically legal but highly provocative. Sarah had to balance showing strength without escalating the situation into an international incident. When the submarine moved toward a restricted area near a U.S. base, Sarah made a crucial decision. She ordered warning signals and positioned the Harrison to block the submarine's path without actually threatening it. The maneuver required precise navigation and perfect timing. The submarine stopped just outside the restricted zone, then slowly turned away. The potential crisis was resolved without shots fired or diplomatic protests filed. Intelligence reports later revealed that the foreign navy had been testing American response capabilities, and Sarah's actions had provided exactly the right mix of firmness and restraint. Captain Thompson recommended Sarah for early promotion to lieutenant junior grade, noting in her evaluation that she possessed exceptional judgment, technical skill, and leadership potential rarely seen in officers of any experience level. Despite these professional successes, Sarah still faced personal challenges. Some crew members remained openly hostile, making crude comments about women in the military. Others acted friendly to her face but spread rumors behind her back, claiming she was sleeping with senior officers to advance her career. Sarah learned to ignore the gossip while documenting the most serious incidents of harassment. She never complained officially, knowing it could damage her reputation, but she kept detailed records in case formal action ever became necessary. Her determination paid off when she received orders for advanced training at the Naval War College. Only the most promising officers were selected for the program, which would prepare her for senior leadership positions. The announcement surprised many of her colleagues, some of whom had been in the Navy much longer. As Sarah prepared to leave the Harrison, Captain Thompson shook her hand warmly. "Lieutenant Martinez," he said, using her new rank, "I predict we'll be hearing great things about you in the years ahead. The Navy is lucky to have officers like you." Sarah smiled, thinking about how far she had come from that nervous young woman entering the Naval Academy. But she also knew her biggest challenges still lay ahead. The higher she rose in rank, the more resistance she would face from those who believed women had no place in positions of real authority. 15 years had passed since Sarah Martinez first walked through the Naval Academy doors. Now a full lieutenant with multiple commendations, she had earned respect throughout the fleet, but she was about to face the biggest test of her career, one that would determine whether she could break through the final barriers that kept women from the highest levels of naval command. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Sarah was reviewing logistics reports at her desk in Pearl Harbor. Admiral Rebecca Foster, one of only 3 female admirals in the entire Navy, wanted to see her immediately. Sarah had never met Admiral Foster personally, though she had followed her career with admiration. Admiral Foster's office overlooked the harbor where the USS Arizona Memorial reminded everyone of the price of military service. The admiral was a small woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She gestured for Sarah to sit down without any preliminary conversation. "Lieutenant Martinez," Admiral Foster began, "I have a proposition for you. It's dangerous, career-defining, and almost certainly impossible. Are you interested?" Sarah felt her heart rate increase, but kept her voice steady. "Yes, ma'am. I'm listening." Admiral Foster explained the situation. The Navy was planning a revolutionary new approach to submarine warfare, involving deep-sea operations in hostile territory. The mission would require an officer with exceptional technical skills, unshakable nerves, and the ability to work with international allies who had never served alongside American women. The Pentagon has identified 12 candidates for this assignment, Admiral Foster continued. 11 are men with impeccable records and years of submarine experience. You are the 12th candidate, and the only woman. Many people believe selecting you would be a mistake. Sarah understood immediately. This wasn't just about her qualifications. The Navy was testing whether a woman could handle the most demanding assignments in the military. Success would open doors for future generations of female officers. Failure would set women back decades. What exactly would my role be? Sarah asked. Admiral Foster smiled for the first time. You would serve as executive officer aboard the USS Neptune, the Navy's most advanced submarine. Your mission would involve operating in international waters near regions where American submarines have never successfully completed long-term operations. The assignment was everything Sarah had worked toward, but she also understood the politics involved. If she succeeded, she would be in line for her own command within a few years. If she failed, she would likely be quietly transferred to a desk job somewhere and forgotten. Ma'am, why are you offering this to me? Sarah asked directly. Admiral Foster leaned back in her chair. Because in 15 years of service, you've never failed at anything significant. Because you handle pressure better than most officers I've known. And because it's time for the Navy to stop pretending that half the population can't handle our most important missions. Sarah accepted the assignment that afternoon. The USS Neptune was unlike any vessel Sarah had ever served on. The submarine was longer than a football field but could move through the ocean with almost complete silence. Its crew of 130 sailors included some of the Navy's most elite specialists. Captain Michael Chen had commanded the Neptune for 2 years and was known throughout the submarine service for his perfectionist standards. When Sarah reported aboard, he studied her personnel file carefully before speaking. Lieutenant Martinez, I requested you specifically for this assignment, he said. Your record shows you perform well under pressure, and this mission will test that ability constantly. But I need to know you can handle the unique challenges of submarine service. Life underwater was unlike anything Sarah had experienced. For months at a time, the crew would live in a confined space with no natural light, recycled air, and constant awareness that hundreds of feet of ocean water surrounded them. Privacy was non-existent, and personal conflicts could become dangerous in such an environment. Sarah's first challenge came from Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, a 20-year submarine veteran who made no secret of his belief that women didn't belong underwater. He questioned her orders, made inappropriate comments, and encouraged younger sailors to disrespect her. Rather than report Rodriguez, Sarah decided to handle the situation herself. She studied submarine systems obsessively, learning technical details that even senior crew members didn't know. When equipment problems arose, she often identified solutions before the specialists did. During one emergency drill, a simulated fire in the engine room created chaos throughout the submarine. Sarah calmly coordinated damage control efforts while Rodriguez panicked and gave contradictory orders to his team. Captain Chen watched the entire episode, noting how Sarah's leadership kept the crew focused during the crisis. The next day, Captain Chen transferred Rodriguez to another submarine, ending the harassment problem. Lieutenant Martinez, he told her privately, leadership isn't about rank or gender. It's about competence under pressure. You've proven you belong here. The Neptune's secret mission began 3 months later. They would spend 6 weeks operating near a hostile foreign navy, gathering intelligence, and testing new equipment, while remaining undetected. The slightest mistake could result in international incident or loss of the submarine. Sarah served as the ship's navigator and tactical coordinator, responsible for planning their route and managing their interactions with other vessels. The mission required them to operate in shallow waters filled with civilian shipping, foreign military patrols, and underwater obstacles that could damage the submarine. On the 15th day of the mission, sonar detected an enemy submarine searching for them. Sarah immediately began plotting an escape route while the crew went to silent running, shutting down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. For 8 hours, the two submarines played a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Sarah used her knowledge of ocean currents and underwater terrain to guide the Neptune through passages that their pursuers couldn't follow. She calculated risks constantly, balancing the need for stealth against the danger of running aground in unfamiliar waters. When the enemy submarine finally gave up and departed, Captain Chen called Sarah to his cabin. Lieutenant, your navigation during that encounter was extraordinary. You found routes through that underwater canyon system that I didn't even know existed. Sarah had studied those waters for months before the mission, memorizing depth charts and current patterns that most officers would have ignored. Her preparation had saved the mission and possibly the entire crew. The remainder of the mission proceeded flawlessly. The Neptune gathered crucial intelligence while remaining completely undetected. When they returned to port, Admiral Foster was waiting on the dock personally. "Lieutenant Martinez," she said as Sarah disembarked, "your performance on this mission has been exceptional. The Pentagon is so impressed that they're fast-tracking your promotion to Lieutenant Commander and offering you the executive officer position on the USS Columbia." The Columbia was one of the Navy's newest submarines, and serving as its executive officer would put Sarah just one step away from commanding her own vessel. But Admiral Foster had more news. "There's something else," she continued. "The Secretary of the Navy wants to meet with you next week. They're considering you for accelerated promotion to full commander, which would make you eligible for submarine command 2 years ahead of normal schedule." Sarah felt overwhelmed by the rapid advancement, but Admiral Foster wasn't finished. "Lieutenant, this is your moment. The Navy is ready to break new ground, but only if you're ready to lead the way. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" 1 week later, Sarah found herself walking through the corridors of the Pentagon, heading toward the Secretary of the Navy's office. She wore her dress uniform with all the medals and ribbons she had earned through years of exceptional service. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Sarah briefed senior officials on the Neptune's mission, answered detailed questions about submarine warfare, and discussed her views on women in combat roles. When it ended, she was offered immediate promotion to full commander and assignment as captain of her own submarine. Standing in the Admiral's office after accepting the promotion, Sarah thought about all the people who had doubted her abilities over the years, the instructors who hoped she would fail, the fellow officers who claimed women couldn't handle pressure, the critics who said she was promoted only because of her gender. Now she would command one of the most sophisticated weapon systems in the world, leading a crew of elite sailors on missions that could affect national security. She had proven that excellence knows no gender, and that determination combined with skill could overcome any barrier. Admiral Foster shook her hand warmly. "Commander Martinez, you've just made history. How does it feel?" Sarah smiled, remembering that nervous young woman who had first entered the Naval Academy so many years ago. "It feels like the beginning, ma'am. Just the beginning."